Well, I tell you, after finally winning a game yesterday, it's kind of a odd feeling. I guess we at least got one through. I know that there was a really big football game last night. Not sure if any of you guys watched that. And you might as well not watch it because you do know that the real big action, the real big comeback action and the underdog action is all right here. So you want to stay with this channel as we try to finish up this season. Now, there's no danger of us actually like making the playoffs, but you know, what are you talking about playoffs? Why would you talk about playoffs? All right, 1-15 is what we are. I don't even know who we're playing next. Oh, look, we're playing Montreal again. So how about that? We play the league leaders or the division leaders again. They're 13-3. I think they are. No, they're right behind. They're right in front of Saskatchewan now, who are 12-5. So we'll go ahead and get this going. Oh, look, Standback came back. I forgot he was injured. So that's a good thing. I think that means I have to go back into the roster and make sure that he's not our actual starting running back. So this is going to be an interesting and somewhat awkward experience. Welcome back on the bench. Anyway, so while we're thinking about all of that, we'll go ahead and try to get this game started and think about a couple of other maybe more pleasant things to talk about than Standback coming back and being injured. Yeah, I hope that you guys were able to watch the national championship game last night, or depending on when you watch this video, hey, maybe it was like a month ago or something like that. Who knows? Whoops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to go over here to change. Yeah, see, so Standback's in there. We want Deadman to be in there as the running back. So, yeah, I watched the national championship game last night, at least most of it. I'm kind of getting old, you know, in my old age here, so I wasn't able to stay up for the entire thing. I stayed up and watched until sometime near the end of the third quarter, by which time it was already like, you know, 10:30 at night, I believe. And so after that, I kind of, you know, collapsed and like fell asleep, and that was the end of that. Miami was starting to come back around that time, so I was, you know, thinking that, you know, it was going to be kind of awkward, especially since if you haven't watched it, and it's not a problem if you haven't, I think most people haven't. I had a video today about the last time that last time that Indiana went undefeated back in 1945. Pretty interesting to do research on, and it really was a long time ago. I mean, things have changed so much in the college football world since 1945 that it's not even funny. Like back in those days, to give you an idea, in 1945, it was still common for teams to not substitute during games. You could substitute. I believe that this is after some form of like almost unlimited substitution came back to the sport. The reason why was to deal with the roster issues teams had because of World War II. But at the same time, like it was a lot different back then. And so it's common back then to see like box scores that would list like, you know, the starters. Ah, shoot. Oh, well. So much for, oh crap. No, get back here. All right, well, hold that thought as I try to prevent them from scoring a touchdown. It's 7 points, right, if they score this? Or is it 1 or is it 3? I can't remember. You Canadians, you guys can tell me how many points it is. We're in trouble. We're about to go down 7-0. This is the team that we just beat. Yeah, well, so much for that. All right, well, that's what happens when you try a field goal in this game. Anyway, so on that lovely note, yeah, so back in 1945, in general, teams would just play, you know, their starting 11. And while you did have substitutes, it was limited to the point where newspaper box scores would print the names of the substitutes underneath the names of the starters, you know, and like in order in which they appeared and stuff. So we're talking about a completely different sport. The other thing that would seem really alien to you if you were to go back somehow to 1945 and watch one of these games is that the coaches didn't call plays back then, at least not in college. I think that was already a thing in pro football by 1945, but in college it was frowned upon until the late 1960s. It was like actually kind of scandalous, this idea that like a coach would end up calling the plays. It was supposed to be the players on the field that did this, so you needed to have a quarterback who not only could call the signals, right, that the coach wanted him to call, but that would also know like the general, you know, like philosophy of the team and stuff like that, because, you know, players would end up calling their own plays. And so it's totally different from the game of football that we know today. Do I dare do it? Yeah, let's go ahead and do this again. Why not? Let's get another one blocked. There, that's a little bit more like it. All right, so we're down 7-3 now. But it's okay. It's not the end of the world. And after all, like, they're leading the league, right? So, you know, it's okay if we have a little bit of trouble with them. That doesn't mean I'm a bad player, right? I tell myself this is how I get to sleep at night, right? You know, I tell myself all this stuff about, hey, it's all right if you lose your Tecmo Super Bowl game. Anyway, though, yeah, 45 was a long, long time ago in the history of college football. And the interesting thing, though, is that the concept of, like, blue blood teams and stuff, that was definitely still a thing back in 1945, or already a thing, however you want to say it. The big difference, though, is that the teams that you would consider to be blue bloods back then were a lot different than what you would see now. So, like, Alabama, for example, went undefeated in 1945 alongside Indiana. But Alabama was sort of like, there were people in the press like Grantland Rice who were really concerned that Alabama was kind of a weak team because they had a weak schedule. They played a schedule that would look like a pretty strong SEC schedule today by today's standards. But since it was 1945, you know, like, I don't know, like, nobody had ever really heard of, like, LSU or, you know, Auburn or any of these other schools, right? So that's kind of the big difference. When you look back at this and you read these articles, it's kind of a surreal feeling, you know? Anyway, not the end of the game, just the end of the first quarter. We'll keep going. Yeah, we need to figure something out with defense. As I've said before, the problem with this team is still the defense. Last game we played, I think we had a little bit of luck defensively, and even then I was convinced we were going to lose it. All right, it's all right. We're going to keep our wits about us and keep talking about other stuff so I get distracted. And no luck with Deadman. This Montreal team, if you play this game, they're really, really good against the run. And that allows them to look for pass defense like that, so that gives you a whole host of problems. And we could punt, but, you know, real men don't punt, so we're not going to do that. We did that last game, though, and we won, so maybe I should be punting. Get there? Did he get there? Yes. No. Whoops. I was a yard short. I thought that he got there. It looked from this side like he got there, but whatever. I came close to intercepting that, actually. I know that people talk about this on, like, Facebook and stuff. I have not yet had a pass that I actually intercepted in this game. It's always been computer. Oh, no. No, you didn't. Oh, man. Alright, this is going to be a long game, guys. But, you know, anyway. Well, I'll get into this in a second here, right? So, talking about 45, right? Indiana was ranked 4th in the country. They ended up right behind Alabama, and they also did not go to a bowl game. You should go check out the video if you haven't. I'm not sure why they didn't. I do presume that some of it is because Indiana was an integrated team, and I think that there was a lot of concern about that in the South. Oh, no. Not again. This is his 3rd time being injured this season. All right, that's all right. We got the big old truck in here, so we're gonna put Stan back in. No problem. We got this. Anyway, so, you know, the first undefeated team that Indiana ever had didn't go to a bowl game. The school didn't go to a bowl game at all until 1968. Which is sort of an indication of what that football program was like. Anyway, that's a little bit more about kind of what's going on there. Oh, man. One of the reasons why I wanted to do that video and talk about this stuff is because literally, like, nobody talks about this. I mean, like, in the mainstream media talking about football. You don't see anybody... Dude, you're supposed to, like, at least guard your defender, right? He just stopped and looked at the quarterback. Anyway, if you were hoping for a repeat performance, I'm sorry to say it's not happening today. Yeah, the thing is that, you know, nobody in the mainstream media ends up talking about, you know, Indiana and exactly what happened in 1945. And the other thing I've noticed is that I'm seeing on, you know, so I see ESPN in the gym when I go there to work out. I would never pay for any cable television at home. There's no way I would. And if I had it, I still wouldn't watch freaking ESPN. But at the gym, it's on all the TVs and all that stuff, so whatever. And what I've seen them talk about now is they're talking about how the last team to go 14-0 in a season was Yale in 1894. But, of course, nobody's actually talking about what happened in 1894, so this might be a future video for this channel. 1894, of course, is the year, I believe that's the year of the Hampstead Massacre, or whatever it was called, the big bloody game between Yale and Harvard. Man, that was a really bad decision on my part. Anyway, 1894 was also a long time ago in the history of college football. And it's just sort of a shame that, you have this kind of like historic moment, where we haven't seen this type of performance since way back when, but then nobody's really interested in talking about what actually happened back in those days. I mean, 1894 was like back in the days when people would die playing college football, to put it really bluntly. Right, and you actually did have like casualties on the field, something that we definitely do not have today. Right, like guys did kind of have helmets back then, but it was nothing like it is now. And you had a lot of guys who were really aggressive, in their plays. You had teams with aggressive play calling. You had things like, the wedge and all that stuff. So I mean, it was definitely a rough period of time in the history of the sport. Right. Any season in college football before Teddy Roosevelt in 1906 is going to be rough. And even then, like, the bloodiest season in the history of college football is actually 1909. And a lot of people don't, like, fully understand that. But, all of the changes they made, they were supposed to make it so that, there was a little bit less violence in the sport. Those changes didn't really have much of an effect. Not sort of the way that you think. It's not really until like the Carlisle Indian School started to put together some really good teams, and teams started to embrace the idea of passing, that things really started to change in the sport. I wanted to go over the first down, but decided not to. I mean, like, you can kind of joke and talk about, back then is when when you had real men playing or whatever. But really, when you think about it, all right. When you really think about it, like, I mean, it's kind of an awful thing what was happening in football way back then, because I'll take it. Oh, okay, I won't take it. Because the dude at the line freaking jumps like 10 feet in the air to block for the pass. Anyway, we're doing really poorly, aren't we? I thought for sure that if I sat here and I calmed myself down and talked about something else, we would play well again, and instead we played like garbage. Anyway, but you have to remember that it's a real bad thing, is you get these kids who would like go to school, and you're supposed to be going to school to study, right? In the 1890s, 1900s, 1910s and stuff, like, you still had people who went to school just to study and not, because he's the big athlete and he's going to go to the NFL. There was no NFL. There was no professional football. And so you had these kids who would play football it was almost like an intramural type thing, do it kind of for fun or whatever. And then they wind up dying in the game, right? I mean, like, how do you explain that to their parents, right? Like, oh, well, he was healthy when he first came here, but then he decided to, play this game and ended up dying as a result. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. So it was definitely a different time in the history of the sport. How come nobody's down here? Well, I couldn't do anything about that, but, like, what's wrong with this defense? Like, what's wrong with this end down at the bottom? Does he even do anything? Anyway. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is one of the reasons why the story of, like, Indiana kind of resonates with people, really, is because it's a story of, it's a story that actually has a story behind it, right? It's kind of like the underdog, the team you've never heard of, that, has somehow managed to have the magical season where everything kind of clicked and went together and all this stuff. And the truth is that people who follow sports love stories like that. Sports, man, these ends suck. Sports is all about, the underdog team making it, which I think is one of the reasons why so many people liked the last video in this series. And hopefully is the reason why you're liking this video, because we definitely look like underdogs now. Don't worry, we'll score another 40 points in a row. We'll make it happen, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why Indiana really sort of resonates with people, right? I mean, you and I are probably never going to be like professional football players. I certainly will never be one. Chances are that like anybody watching this has probably not got that kind of athletic ability, right? And so I guess in a way you can think of it as like living vicariously through like a great athlete or whatever. but it's more like sort of seeing your own dreams, you know, come fulfilled, right? I mean, most of us are not in a position where we're like at the top of society and we have it made and all this stuff. And so, you know, it's kind of fun to watch and to see like, you know, somebody else is able to kind of live out that Cinderella dream, and you see like the good guys win and stuff like that. That's what it's all about. That's what the, that's really kind of what the real, beautiful. That's kind of what the real essence of sport is really all about. That's the thing that people like the most. And that's really the reason why, you know, doing like series like this ends up resonating with a lot of people. You know, even if you don't like the game very much, it tends to resonate with you because you're seeing a team come from nothing and, you know, have at least success once, you know. Now, there are other things that I'm planning on doing, just so you know. So this series is coming to an end pretty soon, and once it's done, we're going to look at some of the other sort of older mods and stuff like that, or I should say mods for older seasons. And I'll put a little bit more, I think, historic content in with that. So you'll have a couple more like clips from like newspapers, and if I can find it, clips from film and stuff like that. So we'll make it so that it's a bit different than this overall experience. It'll probably be at least somewhat educational. So it should be fun. Really, I probably should have done something with this. I should have done a little bit more research right from the beginning. Especially since so many of us are not really that familiar with what the CFL is like these days. That's all right. You kind of live and learn, and we make adjustments as we go. The other thing that I want to start doing on this channel, which is definitely not going to happen today, it's a little bit later in the afternoon today than I like, which will happen pretty soon, is we're going to get back to playing games in addition to this. So I need to start playing Madden 94, and we need to start looking at some of the non-Madden games. That's going to take a little bit more time. I know I've talked about this in other channels. The nice thing about Tecmo Super Bowl is that it takes, what, about like maybe max like 25 minutes to play one of these games? Shoot. Oh man, that was bad. It takes about 25 minutes at max to play one of these games, which works in really, really nicely for making a YouTube video. Some games like the old Madden games will take you a little bit longer than that to play. Right, like it takes an hour to play an individual game. Man. This is just not a good game, is it? Man. How did they know I was going to call pass B down, right? How did they not think that I was going to call some other passing play? Anyway, so, but yeah, that's kind of the plan. I'm going to do a little bit more, nice. I might do a few more videos like that. We'll see a couple of other games in action. There are games that people keep asking me about and stuff. I also really do want to go back and play a little bit more with like the NFL 2K series with the 3D Madden games and stuff like that. It's just the thing I have to make sure is that I can mute some of the audio because, you know, YouTube gets after you if you're using music that's copyrighted elsewhere, and so you've got to worry about all that stuff. You know. Man, this has been an ugly, ugly game. So this is those in keeping with the theme today, right? Because if you look at Indiana and how they played in 1946, Indiana lost the first 2 games of the season and lost them to some pretty bad teams. And I don't remember if those games were close or not, but I imagine, as I'm narrating this while I play this, I imagine that they were about as good as these games, this game has been. Man, how do they have so many defenders in this team? I swear they have like 20 defenders, right? My quarterback's surrounded by defenders, and then I catch a pass, and I'm looking at like 6 guys grouped together in a formation. See, look at that. Look at how many guys are following him, right? Like what's the deal with this game? Like, if the other team is good, does it like give them extra defensive players? So like, oh yeah, well you're better than the team that's on offense, so we're gonna let you have like 50 guys on defense, just for fun. All right, let's see if we can get Stanback a touchdown. Oh, come on, let him through. Man, all I had to do was push B on time, and I still couldn't make it happen. Screw that, we're gonna go for a touchdown. We want to win this game. Oh, no, I'm not gonna make it. Oh, well. See, this time it doesn't matter, though, because this game's already a blowout, so whatever. We can have fun and do silly things like that. Anyway, yeah, so there's a little bit of life, the universe, and everything else as narrated by me for this Tecmo Super Bowl game. So just so you know, the next game that we're probably going to play is we're probably going to start messing around with one of the teams from the 1958 season, which should be interesting. I know a couple things about 1958, but not that much. I mean, we all know about the Colts beating the Giants in the championship game, right? So everybody knows that. But there's a lot of other things I don't really know about what the NFL was like back then. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing that and like sort of seeing what things were all about and seeing what's going on. And like I said, there's going to be a lot more like historic content. I'm planning on doing videos where at the very beginning we like look at what happened in this game in real life and stuff like that. I haven't checked yet, but I'm pretty sure that the schedules that whoever made the mods, that the schedules actually follow the real life schedule. So anyway, there'll be a whole bunch of that. It'll be sort of semi-educational. We'll have some stuff to sort of look at and check out and all that. And I mean, it's Tecmo Super Bowl still, so it's not like the games themselves are going to be really realistic, but it gives you something to think about in addition to, you know, how well or how poorly I'm playing this game. This is the hangover game, right? And the thing is, like, you know, oh, here we go. Here we go. We got a completion. There we go. The thing is, you can't expect me to win, like, more than one game in a season, right? I mean, come on. That's not reasonable. There are other games we should spend some time playing too, right? I mean, I need to play a little bit of like Blitz and stuff like that, right? So NFL Blitz, you know, I can't remember if I ever actually played that game in the arcade. I don't think I did. I think that I spent most of my time, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. I think I spent most of my time playing with like NBA Showtime or something like that when I would see them. You know, they used to have those machines that were like both games combined. Anyway, Blitz is a pretty fun game. If you've never played it, you really have to play it. It's kind of a shame. The NFL has been kind of like uptight about that sort of thing. I mean, the problem is that NFL Blitz eventually, like with the console versions, they started putting things in like players using steroids and players having like drug convictions and stuff like that. So like, yeah, I can see why the NFL wasn't so happy about that. But, you know, the overall idea behind Blitz was actually a pretty good idea. I wish that they had more games like that, especially today. It feels like just such a stale, you know, marketplace for these games. We do have some pretty good PC games, but what we don't have is a game that's just like totally ridiculous. Other than, I guess you can play, you know, the Mutant League Football, like the latest version of it or whatever, right? That's pretty ridiculous, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not quite like the way it was back in the days. They're going to call it running play here, I guarantee it. Alright, so we're kind of playing out the string in this one, but we scored 17. That's actually pretty good. I mean, if you go back and you look at the history of these games, you'll see that, you know, we've had more than our share of games where we didn't really score very many points. I was going to go out of bounds, but we wouldn't even make it out of bounds because the clock goes by so fast. And see, we held them to 0 points in the fourth quarter, and that's what really counts, right? We won that fourth quarter 7-0, and as far as I'm concerned, that's a victory. That's a 7-0 victory, clearly. So anyway, so we do the do what we're supposed to do here. Auto skip to week 17. This is actually going to be the last week. Okay, so how about that? So we're going to do one more week, and that's going to be the end of it. So I'll tell you kind of what the plan is as soon as tomorrow, once we have the next one played. And then we'll have our little roundup of all this, and we'll kind of say farewell, at least for now, to Tecmo Grey Cup, and we'll see what comes next. So thanks for watching. I'll talk with you again then. Bye.